Alright, if you like to go backpacking or kayaking and you like to bring some food along for multi-day events, you can go buy the manufacturer brand dehydrated meals if you want to, or you can just bring junk food like Pop-Tarts and various other things, or you can make your own, and you can make them so that they taste so much better than what you buy at the store, and it costs so much less if you buy all the ingredients ahead of time when it's on sale. Dehydrate them and store them in the refrigerator in your cupboard, and then you've got them ready to use. But it's so much easier to do it yourself, and it does taste a whole lot better. Give it a try. And then one thing I did, and I did a video on this. This is a hamburger, and I pressed it all into a uniform size, cut them into pieces, and then dehydrated them. So today is going to be the test for the hamburger, and I got a lot of it. It's going to be a huge meal. I've got dehydrated mushrooms. I've got all different kinds of mushrooms. And then I've got brown gravy flakes that I'm going to put on top of there. Just like that. This is dehydrated gravy. I'm just going to put it in there just like that. Always put the gravy and the sauces, things like that, if it's dehydrated, always put those on top, because they will do a massive sticky mess on the bottom, even with the oil in there sometimes. The dehydrated hamburger came back nicely, and the mushrooms are incredible. I actually like the mushrooms when you bring them back by hydrating them better than just eating the mushrooms straight from the grocery store. Okay, we're talking about camping and finding decent ways to eat when you're backpacking, and obviously weight is a concern. So you can't bring a can of something with you if you're going to backpack any distance. The weight is just going to be a killer. The best way to get rid of the weight is to get rid of the can itself and get rid of all the liquids, which obviously are the majority of the weight. And if you can reduce the moisture inside the food itself without compromising the taste and the nutritional value, then that's even more of a savings. Well, how do you get there? That would be dehydrating meals. Now, a lot of you are familiar with, just regular dehydrated meals. This is a Mountain House meal. They're a popular brand. This is their beef stroganoff with noodles. This is my favorite Mountain House meal to eat out of all of them. But I will tell you, after eating my meals, the Mountain House brand and all the other ones, even the elite specialty dehydrated brands, just don't compare. And my theory on this is that they're having to compete with a market, a broad market, so they have to be very careful with the seasonings, what they put in there, maybe even allergy concerns in terms of putting nuts and that type of thing in their dishes. And it really affects the taste. So, can you do it better than the commercial companies? And I say, absolutely, yes, you can. Can you do it cheaper? Beyond the shadow of a doubt, yes, you can do it cheaper. This one Mountain House meal is somewhere around $8 or so, $6 to $8, depending on where you're buying it. There are some that go as high as $12 and up to $12 and $15 for some of the elite brands. And you can do it yourself a whole lot cheaper. So what do you need to do? You need to start off with a dehydrator, and this is the top of my dehydrator that you're looking at. I'm using a brand that I bought. It's the Ambiano, I guess is how you say it, Ambiano. I bought this digital food dehydrator at Aldi, and at the time, years ago, I think I paid $25 for it. So for the cost of 2 dehydrated meals, I can buy the dehydrator. And it has, I think, 5 racks on it. it also has some recipes and various other things where you have it tells you what the food is, how much time to do it, on what temperature. Really does a nice job explaining all that. And you have to remember, all these units are different. There are round ones, square ones, big ones, small ones. And so, you have to play with the first couple of batches when you're doing food that you like. And you may have to do it a little longer, dehydrate a little longer than what the instructions tell you to in a cookbook. Or you may have to do it a little bit shorter. But you should really keep an eye on your first batch of each item that you're doing and just see where it goes. This one I have found, generally I have to keep it in there quite a bit longer, maybe an hour to 3 hours, depending on what it is, in order to get what the cookbooks are telling me is the proper dehydrating. I'll recommend, this is a book that got me really started on trying to figure out what it is that I need to do in terms of dehydrating meals. Is this easy or hard or difficult or whatever? It's Recipes for Adventure. The author is Chef Glenn McAllister, and he listed as the ultimate guide to dehydrating food for the trail. So this is a cookbook that is specifically for backpacking, camping, and those types of things. So it's a great place to start. I have used some of their recipes, and then I've gone on to modify the recipes to actually meet my personal taste. But I highly recommend this. You can get this on Amazon, pretty much any bookstore. And one of the things that I really strive for is, in order to get cost effectiveness, buy the food when it's the cheapest. And I'll give you a perfect example here. This is Harvest Salsa from Sprouts. It's a Sprouts brand, and it's pumpkin, jalapeno, and spices, all in a salsa. And I just love anything that gives me some spice and some zest, and I can add this to just about anything. It's now after Halloween, and they're writing it down now for $1.99 a bottle. You cannot beat that. And whenever you see these things where they're going to meet their life expectancy, and they're having an issue where they can't sell them, they'll mark all this stuff way down. You buy it, and when you dehydrate it, it will last for years if you do it under the proper conditions. So when I get mushrooms, I buy the finest mushrooms that are available. And when my local grocery store or produce section cannot sell the mushrooms for whatever reason, it might be school break is out and nobody's home shopping or whatever the case may be, I will buy all of them when they mark them down, and then just have a dehydrating fest with all these gourmet mushrooms, and I will keep them in my freezer for, I could do it for up to a year or longer and use them anytime I want to. There's no spoilage with this. This is the beautiful thing about it. I dehydrate them, I vacuum pack them, get all the air out of them. They're sealed, vacuum packed, and then I put them in the freezer. And I can have those things for 2 or 3 years. I pulled out things that I've had for a year and a half, rehydrated them on the trail, and they're absolutely incredible. So this one in particular is on salsa. So you've just got the clear plastic lid like you would on any type of hydrating. One of the things that they have is these sheets. These are kind of a synthetic sheet that's used in the hydrators. And this is for the sauces, gravies, salsa, anything that's liquid, fluid. You will need one of these because the racks on the dehydrators are graded, like so. So obviously you're gonna have a hard time dehydrating salsa or any kind of liquid on a graded surface. So what you do is you just simply put that around it and you would spread it out on the synthetic sheet. Most of these dehydrators have one rack, that is the top rack, and that is this one right here. It's a closed dome. The rest of them are open domes for the air to come up. So make sure that you're doing the closed dome last, because you want that on the top. And if you're doing maybe just 2 racks. You don't have to do 5 racks at a time. So if you're just doing 2 or 3 racks, then you can just put the closed dome on top and just use that as your second one. So here we go. You've got this down. You put your mat down. I want the sides to be elevated a little bit on the outside. Okay, so I want all those outside rim pieces of my synthetic material to be lifted. That will keep it from running off and going down into the gutter down there. If it drifts down into the base of the machine, that's fine. They've set it up for that. The air tube is elevated. It's just a quick cleanup. But if you don't have to clean it up, don't do it. So I'm opening the salsa lid, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start in the middle of that synthetic sheet, just start putting the salsa out. Now, I will tell you this, marinara sauces, gravies, those types of things work best. Chunkier salsas like what I'm doing here, you have to keep an eye on it. Now, the reason is when you have various components in the sauce, like a tomato or a pepper or an onion, and it's in a chunky kind of style format, then things dehydrate at different times, right? Onions dehydrate differently than tomatoes, and peppers dehydrate differently than sauces. So you just have to make sure that, if it's chunky, you're keeping an eye on it. Generally, you can do it. It's just much, much easier. If I'm going to do a tomato-based sauce and I want a tomato-based sauce in a dish, and you can do that with chicken dishes, beef dishes, whatever, I'll take a marinara sauce because you cannot screw a marinara sauce up. It's almost impossible. So that might be a good thing to start with. Don't start with the chunky things first. Cheese, sauces that have cheeses in them, really not a good idea. It doesn't really work well. You really have to kind of master the techniques to do sauces with cheese in them, and it gets to be kind of a mess. Now you can do it, and you can dehydrate milk and make milk powder and all kinds of stuff like that, but start off easy. So you see, I'm just spreading it out, I'm thinning it out, I'm trying to get consistency. So I want it, to be the same thickness all around the sheet. Just like this. Try not to get it up into the air channel. You want to try to leave this as open as possible because the air is coming out of the sides here. It's not coming out of the top, it's coming out of the sides. This top ring is to bring the air up to the next level, but the air actually ejects from the sides of this plastic tube. So just spread it out, get it nice and smooth, just like that. And I love this stuff. This stuff is so good. Now this is, what you see here is an entire bottle. Okay, that bottle is gone. So I can get an entire bottle of salsa, and let me just keep spreading this out a little bit. I get the remnants out of here. But I can get an entire bottle of salsa, and this is 16 ounces. So I can get an entire 16-ounce bottle on one sheet. Now, thinking ahead a little bit, after I dehydrate this, what am I going to do? Well, I'm actually going to cut this. This will be a leathery feel. You'll pick it up, it'll actually look like a piece of leather. I'm going to cut this into sections because it's really, really potent. So for a single serving, if I'm just backpacking for myself and I'm eating for myself, I'm bringing enough of the meat and enough of the beans or peas or the broccoli or whatever it is, just for one person, for one meal, for one night. So what I want to do is I want to also put the sauce that I'm using in one night version. So for something like this, that may be quarters. So I may just quarter it, I may just half it, depending on, if I like a lot of sauce, then I'll half it and I'll bag half of it and then the other half, and I'll just bring half of it with me, mix it in for that particular night. Have it already subdivided, okay? So I'm gonna do that with the rest of these jars, and then I'll come back up. All right, I've got all the racks loaded, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 racks. I also, on the top one, just to give you a little difference, I added 1 rack of this tomato basil pasta sauce. and I just love this stuff. Silver Plate's a good brand. You can get any brand that you like. But these were buy one, get one free. So I bought a bunch, and to hydrate them, they'll last forever. So that's on the top rack up here. So we'll look and see what the consistency differences are. But then you just put the top shield back on top of that, and you're ready to program it, and then you just sit and you just wait. All right, and all the gauges are a little bit different depending on what dehydrator you have. But on this particular one, you've got to set the time first, and there's an HR. You may not be able to see it on the screen, but there's a little thing that's lighting. It says HR for the amount of hours. And I'm going to set it for 8 hours. And you say, 8 hours? Oh my God. Let me tell you, it's worth it when you get out on the trail. Then I hit set, and then it's going to ask me for what temperature. It's automatically on 130, and I'm going to go on this one to 140. The recipe out of that cookbook that I showed you from Glenn McAllister called for 135, but I have found this unit I have to go warmer than what the recipe calls for. So I'm going to go 145, and then all I have to do is hit the start button, and it's starting. Now you'll notice that some of this is kind of starting to run a little bit. You know, don't worry about it. It's okay. If it runs off the side, it just ends up down in the trough down here. So not to worry about it. It's easy cleanup, and but it will start solidifying as time goes on. And then after about 4 hours, you want to check it, and then you want to rearrange the racks to give them all even heating. Now you can rearrange all of them except for the very top rack, which has that cone on the top of it. You cannot move the cone top to any of the bottom layers because it will restrict the air from going up to the other layers. So anyway, that's got you started, and we'll take a look at it after it dehydrates for about 4 or 5 hours. We just turned it off at 6 hours of operation. And while you're doing your first batch, make sure you order some of these. These are great for camping. They're little packets of olive oil. This is Bellucci 100% Italian extra virgin olive oil. It's a less than an ounce. It's 25 milliliters. This is great. And what you do is you want to put that in the bottom of your cook pots, and then you'll roll it around on the sides and the bottom, and make sure that you cover that cook pot with the oil. That's going to keep any of your dehydrated meals, when they get heated up and you get that boiling, from sticking into the bottom of the pan. You're going to be glad about not sticking, and you're going to be glad when it comes to cleanup time, because it's going to look great. But also, here's the sauce that I was using, the spaghetti pasta sauce. See how close we can get it here. It looks a little damp still, and the way you can do this is you can just touch it, and it feels moist and spongy. So it's not ready. And then this is what our chunky salsa looks like. Now these chunky ones, what's going to happen, what you're going to see, it's going to start breaking up. So you'll start seeing little fissures in there, little cracks in there where it's all separating. And the liquid is going to draw up, but it's going to crack around some of these peppers and onions and whatever the chunky stuff might be in there, chunky tomato. That's not a big deal. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It just matters if you successfully dehydrate it. So it can be broken up all into pieces, but when you put it in that pot and hydrate it and stir it in, you're going to have a great sauce. So don't worry about the appearance. But you can touch this. The salsa's also wet. You can see on my finger here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 3 trays, and you can see this one looks not as broken apart. This one really looks broken apart on the bottom, and it's just the air is different in each one of these, how it hits each level. And you can see there's minimal mess in the bottom of the tray here, and all that will wipe up with just water. So I'm going to put this one, which is the least done, in the bottom, and then I'm going to put let's see, I'll put this one that was the top one next, and And then this one was the one on the bottom, and I'm going to put it on the top. And then because this has this cover cone on it, it can only be used as the top tray. So that's my sauce on. And what I'm going to do, it also helps too if you rotate these trays a little bit. So, you know, the air just blows in a different way. Make sure that your vents are clear, that your latex sheet here is not covering that up. Put the lid back on, and let's finish it for 2 more hours and see what it looks like after 8 hours. We've reached the 8-hour mark, and you can see that the pasta sauce is pretty well done. I can touch this, it feels fairly dry, and I like to not dry it to a crisp. So, you know, I like to leave it a little wet, and then I vacuum seal mine, and that just seals it all in, and then I put it in the freezer. But what you want to do with this is you start raking up the ends, and this is sometimes a longer process, but you just kind of bend and you get a corner started like this, and you'll start peeling it up. And it's okay if it doesn't come off in one piece. You can adjust it. But you'll peel all this off, and then you'll do this all the way around, and then you'll flip it upside down and run it for maybe an hour upside down. It just gets the moist side between the top layer here and the synthetic material. And so I'll work on flipping that and show you what it looks like. Okay, and I just peeled all this up and I flipped it over, and I'll spread this out. There was one section that was a little wet right in there, so it tore out, so I'm just leaving it there. And I'm going to put it on the bottom sections with the salsa need to go a little bit longer. Well, they need to go at least a couple of hours longer. But I'm going to do this for about an hour, and that should take care of it. When it comes out, I'll usually cut these in half, the pasta sauce in half. I'll put half of it in a vacuum packed bag and the other half in a vacuum packed bag, and this would be one meal, the sauce for one meal. So I'm going to set it for another 2 hours, and then I'll come back and check this piece, and then probably get it out, and then we'll finish the salsa. And it's had a chance to dehydrate on both sides. So you just take this off, peel this off of the synthetic material. Like I said, I'd only use half of this for one meal. And then what I do is I shrink wrap them and put them in here. So I'll fold this half piece over, shrink wrap it. You get this nice thin packaging. I put this in the freezer, and it'll last for years. So when it comes time to go backpacking, I just pick one of these out and throw it in the pack with the meat or the peas or whatever it is I want to put these with, and it needs a good tomato sauce with it, and I'm ready to go. Here's the salsa finished, and you'll notice that it's broken up. There's a lot of fissures in it, and that's because it has that big material in it, the larger onions, the peppers, things like that. And this is just a little bit on the largest, thickest parts. It's a little bit of a tacky feel, but it doesn't come off on your finger. That's where I like it. That's what I'm going to pull it off. And you'll notice the difference in consistency. The pasta is kind of one whole piece that just comes up as one large piece like this. Thinner ingredients, different kind of blending. Salsas, just kind of the water, the tomatoes, it's all just kind of thrown in together, not really pureed, and you're going to get this kind of look. It doesn't matter what it looks like. What it matters is it going to taste great when you put it in water? Most of this is just going to dissolve into the water and create a sauce. It won't look anything like this in your pot once you put it in boiling water. So you'll just peel these up, and as you peel them up, half them, and then put them in your plastic bags. Vacuum pack them if you want to keep them over a long period of time. I like to keep 15, 20 different options in the freezer, and it's nice to have them already done. That way I'm not in a rush. I just pick out if I'm going on a 3-day, 2-night deal or a 3-night deal. I'll just pick out the ones I think I want to eat and maybe an extra one, and I've got them vacuum packed. They'll last forever, and I just pull them out of the freezer and have at it. All right, here's what I do after I finish the dehydrating. This is what I do. I vacuum pack it. I got this device also at Aldi, the same location I got the dehydrator, and this is the Ambiance vacuum food sealer, and I think I paid maybe $20 for this, and I have used it over and over and over again. Takes little bags. You can use 8-inch bags. They have I think 12-inch bags it'll go up to, but and they sell these with the vacuum processor. So the vacuum sealer, wherever you see this, and Aldi does a great job, but they don't carry it all year round. They'll have that, it'll cycle in as a product. They'll bring some in, and then you won't see it for months, and then they'll bring it back. But anyway, just incredibly versatile. So here, I'll show you what I do. Now, you can just as easily use a freezer bag, a Ziploc freezer bag, style freezer bag. Put the food in there. If you're gonna do it tomorrow, if you're going camping within a week or so, just use a cheap storage bag. I mean, you know, anything. It really doesn't make any difference. I try to do, I think it gives the food a little more integrity if I dehydrate all the ingredients separately. Now, there are some things like chilies and maybe some stews or something like that, you know, where yeah, I'll have to break it down. The problem is if you've got large chunks of meat and things like that, it's going to be a little bit of an issue because you'll over dehydrate some and under dehydrate others. But anyway, with these sauces, if you want to put them in a freezer bag or a food storage bag, go ahead and do it. And put them in a freezer bag, and if you're not going camping anytime soon, just put them in your freezer. They'll hold up just fine. Make sure the freezer bag is sealed properly, and you can go. I like to vacuum bag because I'll put it in 40 or 50 different variations, brown gravies, sauces, salsas, all kinds of things. And you know, it gives me a little leverage to choose what I want, what I feel like I want, especially depending on what season it is. So here's what we did. We took these. This is one of the salsas. You can see this one came up pretty nice. It came up all in one piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this like this into 2 pieces. So I'm only going to, this is one meal. I'm going to use this much salsa for one meal. I'll add it with some meat and maybe some beans and some vegetables that I've dehydrated, and this will be one. Now, beyond taste and ease of preparation and everything else, the next thing you have to look for is size and storage. You want to get it down to the smallest common denominator, because if you're going to be gone for 3, 4, 5 days and you're in an area where there's bears, you're going to need to pack a lot into that bear bag, and you've got to get things down to the minimal size if possible. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it in half like this. Push that down, all right? I'm going to take it again, fold it again, and this is 8 ounces of salsa, all right? This is the equivalent of 8 ounces of salsa. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it again. And there you go. That's 8 ounces of salsa right there. I could even fold it over one more time if I wanted to. Okay, so let me set this to the side. And when you're vacuum packing, This is a little bit noisy, but just so you can see it, what it's like, you just put it over the strip as it directs you to do. And all my stuff is moving here. You put it down, you push down on both sides, and you hit seal. That's all you do. You push the seal button. When the red light goes off, it's sealed. Then what I normally do is I leave it in the seal portion, and then I just take my scissors and I just cut all the way across. I'll open this up. I've got a sealed bag right there. I'll take this salsa, 8 ounces of salsa that I've compacted. And remember, compacting for space. But when you put it in the water to rehydrate it and get it ready for a boil, remember you have to break this apart, okay? So flake it apart when you boil it. Don't put it in as one large lump. It's gonna have a hard time dissolving and hydrating if you put it in your cooking pot as a lump. So don't do that. And then I'm going to take it all the way up here. I'm going to push this down. I'm going to have a little bit of noise here. And there's a button that says vacuum and seal. It's got the seal light that's still on. It's already vacuumed. Now it's sealing. Seal light is off. And that's 8 ounces of your sauce. This is a pumpkin jalapeno something else sauce from Sprouts. It's our Harvest salsa blend, and it's going to add incredible spice and wonderful taste to any meat or vegetable that I put this in. So this is, look how thick that is. There's nothing. It's about as a little thicker than a piece of paper. So you can put a lot of stuff like that in your bear bag and not have to worry about it, or pack it in your kayak and canoe waterproof container that you're yak camping in, but easy to do.
And there it is. I got it to a boil after letting it sit for a while. Wonderful tomato sauce, black-eyed peas, mushrooms, diced chicken, and I even had some bacon bits that I threw in there because I forgot that I had them. But a good looking dinner. Really, really nice. Put the oil in the pot, it keeps it from sticking into the pot, and your cleanup is very, very easy.